Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in less than 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. Today, what to know about open enrollment, Trump's new plan for military troops, and an e-scooter recall. Plus, Bitcoin's birthday, 23andMe, and how you could be featured for Optimism. Those stories and more in less than 10 minutes. Plus, hang out after the news for the Thing to Know Thursday bonus interview. We're talking everything election, from this year's trends to voting myths. I'm Erica Mandy. Today is Thursday, November 1st. You ready? Let's do this. We start today with a reminder about something that happens every November and that can lead to possibly saving or costing you thousands of dollars. We're talking open enrollment. If you buy your own health insurance, it is time to start shopping and comparing policies for next year. And if you get health insurance through your employer, those dates can vary, but pay attention to those notifications if you want to change up your policy. Because remember, most of the time, unless you have a life event like a change in job or marriage, then you can only change your health insurance policies during set times. Open enrollment for the Affordable Care Act coverage, aka Obamacare, starts today and in most states lasts through December 15th. So you can sign up or check eligibility on healthcare.gov. Or again, if you get health insurance through your job, that employer should be providing you with all the info. Speaking of healthcare, that is the big issue Democrats are pushing before Election Day next Tuesday. And President Trump is focusing on immigration as he kicks off an 11-state tour to campaign for Republican candidates. The latest on that issue from the president? He's again upped the number of military troops he says he could be sending to the U.S.-Mexico border. And it's up a lot. Trump now says the number could reach 15,000 troops, more than double the last number we heard earlier this week. It's in preparation for the migrant caravan heading to the border. Remember, right now, there's about 4,000 Central American migrants walking toward the U.S.-Mexico border. They say they're escaping violence and poverty and hoping to seek asylum in the U.S. They're still weeks away from reaching the U.S. border right now. The AP reports deploying 15,000 U.S. troops would bring the military commitment on the border to about the same level as in Afghanistan. And of course, it would be more than the number of people in the migrant caravan. Critics say Trump's new plan is just a strategy or a stunt to cause unnecessary fear before Election Day, but Defense Secretary Jim Mattis says his department doesn't do stunts. To be continued. Some Google employees are planning to protest on the job today to walk out of Google's offices worldwide. Why? To protest the way Google handled sexual harassment claims. Last week, the New York Times reported that Android creator Andy Rubin was accused, but still got a $90 million exit package, and that the company has stayed quiet about the alleged misconduct. Rubin said the report has false allegations and wild exaggerations, and Google said it did fire 48 people for sexual harassment over the last 2 years with no payout. Still, some Google employees are not happy about the whole thing. Google has apologized again, and the CEO told Fox News he let employees know that he supports their plans to protest, and the company is working to improve policies and take more action. Happy birthday, Bitcoin. This week marks 10 years since the digital currency's creator wrote a white paper all about it. He said his goal was to create a, quote, new electronic cash system, and that it would have no central authority, so no government or bank that controls it. Since then, the industry has grown quite a bit. Forbes says more than 2,000 cryptocurrencies are on the market now, but still Bitcoin is the most famous. Of course, the industry is still considered the Wild West. It's pretty volatile, and its value is based on what people are willing to pay for it, like a stock. Regulators around the world are also taking a closer look now, so there's a lot of risk and a lot of debate also about where it'll be going from here. There are several more stories to know today, but let's take a quick break now because today's episode is made possible thanks to HelloFresh. HelloFresh is a meal kit delivery service that lets you enjoy not having to plan dinner, spend money on takeout, or worry about gathering ingredients week after week. All of the ingredients are pre-measured and delivered right to your doorstep, and the recipes are on pictured step-by-step instruction cards. And the recipes only take about 30 minutes to make. Super easy, super convenient, and they're delicious. Who knew I could bake rosemary meatloaf with green beans and mashed potatoes? It makes me feel like a rock star chef. And if meat is not your thing, don't worry, you have choices. There's classic, veggie, and family plans. Of course, the Newsworthy listeners get a special offer to try it out for a total of $60 off. That's $20 off your first 3 boxes. Go to HelloFresh.com/Newsworthy60 and enter that promo code Newsworthy60. Even though I know you'll love it, for whatever reason, if you don't like it, you can cancel anytime. So go try it, HelloFresh.com/Newsworthy60 and enter that code Newsworthy60. Now back to the news. The FDA has given a thumbs up for a new kind of genetic test. Federal health officials say the company 23andMe can now test to see whether genetics may affect someone's reaction to certain drugs, like antidepressants. Gizmodo reports the approval is not meant to be final word on your medications or a diagnosis of any kind. Instead, it's supposed to start another conversation with your healthcare professional and provide more information for everyone. Critics say the tests don't provide enough data to really be useful, and they worry any tests like these can just cause patient confusion. The e-scooter company Lime recalled about 2,000 of its e-scooters and pulled them off the streets in 3 cities. There were apparently concerns about a defect in some batteries that could cause them to smolder or even catch fire. The company calls it a manufacturing issue and isolated instances. More companies are giving more time to employees so they can vote. A new report found that a record 44% of U.S. firms are now offering paid time off to employees so they can get out and vote in the midterms this year. That's an all-time high, and it's up from 37% in 2016. The Society for Human Resources Management released this survey and says, for example, one company gives 2 hours of paid time at the start or end of a shift to vote. And CNBC reports companies like Walmart, PayPal, and Patagonia have signed on to national campaigns encouraging more companies to support this trend. Filmmaker Ava DuVernay and Time Magazine are teaming up for their annual Optimist issue, and they want your help. As long as you are at least 18 years old, you can submit a video to be included in the issue. It has to be a 30-second clip of something that makes you feel optimistic, and you have to send it by November 5th, which is Monday. You'll find a link on how to submit in today's show notes on thenewsworthy.com. And that's it for the main news today, but it's now time for Thing to Know Thursday, where a different expert explains a different thing to know every Thursday after the news. This week, we're talking about the midterm elections. Election Day, of course, is next Tuesday, November 6th. So my guest today is Carolyn DeWitt, president and executive director of the nonprofit Rock the Vote, which is the largest national organization focused on building long-term political power for America's young people. You've probably heard of Rock the Vote. They've had partnerships with brands like HBO, Tinder, and more. So today, we're talking about this year's election trends, resources, and the biggest myths. So here's my conversation with Carolyn DeWitt. Hi, Carolyn. Thanks so much for coming on the Newsworthy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I first want to talk about what's maybe unique about this year's midterms. And one thing that I saw was a Wall Street Journal NBC survey, which found there's a surge of interest in this year's midterms compared to past midterms. And that's for both Democrats and Republicans. And then your organization also let me know that you're seeing a big increase in engagement with texting and email. So what are you noticing this year, and why do you think we're seeing an increase in interest?
Well, I think there's just a recognition of there's a lot at stake in this midterm election. We saw, obviously a huge shift in the political environment from the election from 2016 in the environment that it's created. And so I think that has woken a lot of, individuals up to kind of what's at stake, and that they need to make sure that they turn out and vote. We are seeing a huge spike in registration and engagement this year from seeing record numbers in National Voter Registration Day, which the registrations actually surpassed 2016 registration rates. To just Rock the Vote's own programming, we've seen over a 4,000% increase on SMS and over 700% on email, which means that individuals who are getting resources or election reminders from us are actually then clicking and getting the information that they need.
One of the other things is that white men do not make up the majority of Democratic candidates for Congress for the very first time. There's also a record number of women candidates. What difference can that make? Do you think Americans are more likely to vote if they see themselves represented in the candidates?
Sure. I think there's, the unique thing about this generation of youth is it's not just the largest generation. It is by far the most diverse generation and the most progressive. While they are less likely to identify with a party, they're much more likely to identify as progressive. And so what that means is, who they kind of buck the notion and these traditional norms. And so anyone who's sort of outside of those norms has a greater chance of being recognized. And the fact is, not only do youth see themselves in these candidates, but these candidates also see themselves in the youth and in the struggles that they experience. And so a lot of them have been actually speaking to young people about the issues.
So speaking of young people, what typically holds them back from voting?
So a lot of people forget that young voters don't participate at the same rate that older voters do, in large part because they're new voters. They are completely new to this process. And, as an experienced voter, it can be difficult and time consuming. And, looking up, has your polling place changed? Has your state ID requirements changed? Who are you voting for? And that can be cumbersome for an experienced voter, but these are voters who are doing it for the very first time. So helping them understand what the process is and the consequences of registering and voting are sort of the primary challenges that we find with young voters. And so that's what we at Rock the Vote really focus on.
This year, we saw a post from Taylor Swift that reportedly led to a surge in people registering to vote. So what difference do you think celebrities can make? What do you think of that Taylor Swift situation?
Yeah, so it's great. That's one of the things that Rock the Vote is known for, is going out, not making young people come into the political space, but actually meeting young people where they are in the, whether it's at school or in their after school programs or with brands or trusted messengers that resonate with them, and going out into culture and reaching them where they are, and then kind of helping educate them and bring them in is how we work. And so, the fascinating thing about Taylor Swift and just celebrity and culture in general is that so much has changed with the internet and with social media of who can be a celebrity. Now you have not just your traditional A-listers, but you have, YouTubers that those over 35 have never even heard of, who, have a huge audience of young people. And same thing with brands as well. Brands that stick up for values, a lot of times young people are very loyal to those brands.
Tell us one of the biggest misconceptions or myths about voting or registering to vote, and the last thing you want to leave people with if they are on the fence about voting.
Well, I'll say this. The biggest misconception I like to disabuse people of is actually that young people are apathetic. That is something that is completely bogus. I know that's not the direct question you asked, but young people are incredibly passionate about our country, about their community, about the issues. The work we have to do as a society and as electorate is actually help them understand the process and the importance of their vote to actually change those issues. There is this idea that your vote doesn't count. Every vote counts. It is critically important. A lot of these elections will come down to very, very few votes. And so, it could be a matter of one vote, as we saw in Virginia last year, where the state legislature was actually decided by one vote that decided the one position that would determine if it would go left or right. But also you see that, presidential elections have been won over one state that was decided by less than 1,000 votes. Or in Michigan, you had, 10 votes per precinct. So one vote matters. And if you get your friends and family, that just multiplies.
So what resources do you want to tell people that they can use both within Rock the Vote and beyond?
Yes, I will certainly plug rockthevote.org. What we provide is actually a one-stop shop for all the resources you need to cast your ballot. So input your address. It tells you what your polling place is, brings up your sample ballot. We have voter guides in target districts and states. But then we also have the state ID laws, the policies around, voting if you are a person with a prior conviction, if you're voting as a student, if you have early voting, all of those sort of state policies can be found on rockthevote.org's website.
Also, join Carolyn and I. We will be hopping on social media live on Election Day to answer your questions. So join us either on Instagram Live or Facebook Live. We're going to try to do both at the same time at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern on Election Day, which is next Tuesday. So be sure to follow at Erica Mandy News on Instagram or Facebook.com/Erica Mandy so you can tune in, ask questions, or just connect with us and encourage others to vote. In the meantime, there's rockthevote.org, and I've also posted links to that and other resources in today's show notes that will help you get all ready for Election Day and see all the election rules for your state. Go to thenewsworthy.com, click episodes, and look for today's date. That's, of course, where you can also read more about all the news we talked about in today's show. Again, that's thenewsworthy.com and click episodes. Thank you so much for listening. The Newsworthy is ready for you by 4 in the morning every weekday, so we'll chat again tomorrow. Have a great day.